What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Links and Locks podcast, the DFS edition. We're going through this week's BMW Championship. I'm Jason Sobel from GolfBet. He's Len Hochberg from RotoWire, and as we do every week, we'll break down every tier on DraftKings this week, looking at DFS plays for our second FedEx Cup playoff event. Plus, we'll make our very own lineup in just a little bit. Len, what's going on? How are you?
I am doing well, Jason. Very excited, very pumped after yesterday, after Sunday's finish. It was a great finish to the tournament. I guess it was looking a little dicey for big names for 3 days there, but and I just thought TPC Southwind was just a perfect playoff course. 15 under, not a birdie fest, not like a major where you're 3 under, 6 under. Birdie chances, plenty of water, aggressiveness there, caution someplace else. I'm very happy with that course and look forward to it next year.
Yeah, I was out there for the first part of the week. I came back Friday, didn't stay for the whole weekend, but no, it's a tremendous course. It was a really good playoff. It was as wild a playoff as we've seen in a long time with second playoff hole, Zalatoris off the cart path, almost OB, Straka just barely over the water. That sounds like you and I playing match play, not these two guys. And then one hits in the water, the other one hits on top of the rock wall, and Zalatoris winds up making a bogey to win on the third extra hole. So a lot of crazy stuff happening in that one. We expect more craziness this week. And as we get into our picks here, I know you always like talking game theory, Len. So break down some game theory for us. 68 players in the field as the time we're speaking right now on Monday afternoon. Cameron Smith has withdrawn from the field. He's got a quote-unquote hip discomfort issue going on. And so it's been bothering him for a while, he said. And so, what better time than the penultimate event of the entire season to rest up and get ready for the Tour Championship, I suppose. And then Tommy Fleetwood, much as he did last week, he will not be playing this week. We're down to 68 players. No cut this week. And so what are we looking at as far as game theory, especially with a field this big with no cut? How do you want to play it?
Yeah, well, we also have to factor in that this is a new course, Wilmington Country Club in Wilmington, Delaware, the first PGA Tour event ever in Delaware, from what I read. Every state should get one at some point, don't you think? It seems only fair. But on first glance, and this course has not been used in any big time professional event. It's hosted some fairly significant amateur events, mid amateur, junior amateur, US amateur, but nothing really recently. The last thing of consequence was the 2013 Palmer Cup. Justin Thomas happened to have played in that. I don't think that really factors into anything here, but it just speaks to the unknown of this course. So the first thing I see when I see this course, par 71 over 7,500 yards. Oh my gosh, uber long. And then you start looking and there's a 634-yard hole and you go, oh my gosh. And then you see there's one longer and it's 649. So 2 incredibly long par 5s. And then you see there are 3 par 4s that are 490 and over, and par 3s over 200, including 234. So it looks incredibly long. Okay, distance. But no, there are a lot of short holes as well. I should say sort of a typical Northeast tree-lined parkland course, not too much water, 4 holes, but there are 8 par 4s under 450. There's nothing between 450 and 490. We don't see that in today's modern game, that really void there. So I originally thought I got to go for distance guys, but actually I think this course is open to even the shorter hitters. One other thing of consequence, enormous greens. Last week, 4,300 square feet. This one almost double, 8,100 square feet. I think Kapalua, the only other larger one. That sort of tells me that I can discount scrambling. You're going to get greens in regulation, going to be good. You're going to get on the green. It might change some things for some scramblers who aren't good scramblers.
I wonder who that could be. The wheels are turning already. I know very little about Wilmington Country Club, Len. I'm getting some Caves Valley vibes. Of course, Caves Valley in Maryland hosted this event a year ago. All we heard in the days leading up was, man, this place is a monster ballpark. This place is really long. 27 under won it last year as Patrick Cantley got into a playoff with Bryson DeChambeau, and there were a ton of guys that were more than 20 under par. There was a lot of birdies to be had on that one. Length is never much of an issue. The PGA Tour has a reputation for setting up golf courses, new courses that they haven't played in the past. They err on the side of caution. And so don't be surprised if this one, even though it's playing north of 7,500 yards, also like Caves Valley last year, turns into a little bit of a birdie fest. So let's start looking at some names. Number one player on the DraftKings board this week, Cam Smith at 10,700. Don't take Cam Smith. Whatever you do, don't play him. You're wasting a lot of money. I think that's a bad idea. At a no-cut event where everyone else is going to be playing 4 rounds, playing a guy who's out with a hip injury, probably not a good idea. So let's look at the top of the board. I'm going to take you through the not only the 5-digit players, since there are only 4 of them, but we'll go all the way through the 9,000s, include everybody together in one tier. Rory McIlroy starts it at 10-5, followed by John Rahm at 10-3, Justin Thomas at 10-1, Will Zalatoris, the recent winner, at 10,000, Patrick Cantley, Scotty Scheffler, Tony Finau, Xander Schauffele, Matt Fitzpatrick, Colin Morikawa, Sam Burns, Victor Hovland, Sung Jae Im, and Tom Kim rounds it out just at 9,000. Where are you looking in that range, Len?
Yeah, I have to start by saying when I saw the prices, I saw Cam Smith at number 1. Okay, could see that. But then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys to get to Scotty Scheffler. I was wondering if I clicked on a wrong link, if I looked to like a Thursday showdown for one round, but I don't know what happened to Scotty Scheffler in 1 week. Yeah, he missed the cut, but I'm really dumbfounded by this at only 9,800. That doesn't mean I'm going to take him, but I just don't know what happened in the span of 1 week that he went from number 2 on the board behind McIlroy to number 7 behind some other guys who didn't necessarily do anything last week. I do like Justin Thomas this week. One of the things I'm looking at this week is, I think you will need to make some putts. I think you will need to be a good putter when the greens are this big. But one of the stats I'm looking at is 3-putt avoidance. The opportunity for 3-putting on these greens is greater than just about any other greens. So anyway, Thomas had a pretty good week last week, tied for 13th, 58th in 3-putt avoidance. That doesn't sound great, but it's better than most guys on the tour. Tony Finau, I think it's time to say he's just playing well. He's on a heater. He was 5th last week. One of the better putters from outside 25 feet, as I started to do a deep dive into putting stats as well. Xander Schauffele is a guy I like. Morikawa really showed himself last week. Boy, watching him putt is, I don't know, it's watching like brain surgery or something. You just hope like nothing goes wrong, where just somebody moves one thing the wrong way. And it was kind of, and the sort of aforementioned guy I like, Victor Hovland. Victor Hovland back on my radar. I think this sets up nicely for him. It takes out his one huge blind spot, trouble spot, $9,200. And Cam Smith I'm going to hold off on Cam Young. I'm going to hold off on Cam Young. I see he's 89. I'm done at the 9s right there.
All right, I'm going to kick things off with John Rahm, who's essentially second on the board since Cam Smith isn't playing at 10-3. I think I liked what I saw from Rahm last week, and quite honestly, it was sort of like his B+ performance. Never looked at John Rahm throughout the 4 days last week and said, boy, he's playing some great golf. Watch out. It was sort of like John Rahm's playing pretty well. And all of a sudden, he finishes in a share of 5th place. And you're like, if he just gets it going a little bit more, it was good tee to green, very good tee to green. Around the greens and on the greens, he was very neutral. If that putter at some point gets lukewarm, doesn't need to get hot, get lukewarm, and John Rahm can go win a golf tournament, I think it could happen this week. So I do like him. Will Zalatoris, look, at this point, we talk about playing with house money. He is playing with house money, essentially, going into this one. Coming off his first career victory, I don't think he backs off the gas pedal at all, and I expect this to be another good week for him. Maybe not a win, but for DFS purposes, I would like to have some Will Zalatoris investment this week. Tony Finau, you mentioned, he's just playing really well. not much to really break down and analyze there. Xander Schauffele, I think, is very interesting. We all know his history on smaller field, no cut events, tends to play really well in these things. I also think that based on the fact that the PGA Tour schedule, the way it's set up, Len, there are very few times during the year when we see the best of the best playing a few weeks in a row. And so the fact that everyone's playing a few weeks in a row, I think for DFS purposes, there's going to be a lot of recency bias. And I think some of the players didn't necessarily have their best stuff last week in Memphis are going to have lower ownership. Xander Schauffele, for me, is one of those guys that might have lower ownership. I think 57th place last week. He was 18th or better in his 7 previous starts. I'm not jumping ship on Xander. Same thing for Colin Morikawa, my favorite play on the board last week. 5th place. You mentioned the putter. Not great. Missed a 6-footer and a 3-footer down the stretch on Sunday, but still, the ball striking's tremendous. I think he's at some point here going to get a win, and I'm still banking on him going back to that this week. And then I'll round things out with Sungjae Im, who I really like a lot. He's been second, 12th in his last 3 starts, really coming on strong. If there is a correlation to last year, he finished in 3rd place at this event at Caves Valley. So maybe there's something to that. How about the 8,000s, Len?
Yeah, I mean, we ripped off a lot of guys in the 9s and 10s, and I think the winner is somewhere in there. It kind of falls off pretty sharply for me into the 8s and stuff. There's so many weeks where we just have a balanced lineup. I don't know if that's the way to go this week, at least my thinking. But I do like Cameron Young at 8,900. I didn't like him last week. He is such an aggressive player, especially off the tee, and there was so much danger lurking around TPC Southwind. There doesn't seem to be much going on here at Wilmington. Like you said, we could get into the 20s. I haven't seen an over/under on this course yet. But I fully expect it to be in the 20 and above situation, and that will benefit him greatly. He can just go for it. I like Max Homa at 8,500. I would like Hideki Matsuyama, but I'm a little wary. What's going on with him.
Yeah.
So not going to go there. Adam Scott was so impressive last week. He just is a better putter than he's given credit for. I mean, maybe if he needs a 3-footer to win the Open Championship against Ernie Els, maybe not. But week in and week out, he's putting pretty well, and he putted great last week. And that takes us down to 8,000.
Yeah, very much on the same page with you with those names. There aren't a ton of guys that I like here. I'll probably have some bigger price players than lower price players this week, as opposed to just a bunch of guys in the middle. I do like Shane Lowry. Again, didn't have a great week last week, but he's one of these guys. And I'm looking for guys who haven't quite had their results match up to their expectations yet this year. I mentioned Morikawa. He's one of them. The fact that Shane Lowry has yet to win this year, you're looking at it going, he's really played well enough to win. And sometimes late in the year, this is just kind of what happens is somebody grabs a win just because the golf gods handed to him. Will Zalatoris has played great golf. At some point, his ball sits up on top of a rock wall and he winds up winning a golf tournament just because the golf gods say it's just his time and he's ready to go win. He's played well enough. So I do like Lowry. Max Homa, look, maybe a little TPC Potomac correlation this week. He won the Wells Fargo there a few months ago. Granted, I expect very different weather conditions than they had that week. Aaron Wise, last week we were talking about Wise coming off a very poor ball striking performance in the final round at the Wyndham. He's coming off a very good ball striking performance this past Sunday. Actually led the field in Memphis in strokes gained approach shots in the final round. I really like Aaron Wise. I like him every week, but I especially like him this week. And then I will mirror your thoughts on Adam Scott. I like him as well. I like the way he's playing. 7,000s. Some interesting names here. And unlike a lot of these weeks, we start getting into the 7,000s, getting into the 6,000s. Like, where can we find somebody somewhere who can help us? We got some pretty big names in the 7,000s and the 6,000s this week, Len.
Yeah, and there are some names I like in the 7,000s because of who they are at their price. Brian Harman, 7,700, showed again how pound for pound the best golfer on the PGA Tour if they do that sort of thing. You think of him, he's not going to be able to keep up with the longer hitters. But like I said, there are at least half the holes on this course are kind of short holes. I think he can really make up ground there. And then those two behemoth par fives, they are so long that sort of counterintuitively, they bring the shorter hitters in because it's really not a two-shot hole for almost anybody. Yeah, some of the guys can get there in two, but it's interesting. And I also, interestingly enough, saw how they made the 649-yard hole 649 yards. 2 years ago in August, they had a tornado roll through the course, and it blew away a 250-year-old white oak, and that allowed them to add 60 yards to this hole. They lost 300 trees in 5 minutes in a tornado. Good thing the PGA Tour is not going back there in August this time around. I mean, I'm interested to know, not to get too sidetracked, if they had already decided on Wilmington Country Club 24 months ago at this time, before that, and if that would have
so.
And that if that would have changed, you know, and if they would have still would have picked it without 300 trees, it did not look that tree-y in the fly hour video that I looked at. So it just an aside. Two other guys in the lower 7,000. Sahith Theegala at 73. Keegan Bradley at 72. Keegan Bradley's not been playing well lately. Very hard to pull the trigger. I think he's missed 3 of his last 4 cuts, but we all know his ball striking. And while he's not a very good putter, he's 13th on tour in 3-putt avoidance. So he doesn't get down in 1, but he doesn't get down a lot in 3 either. He's got a lot of 2s. So, you know, those 2 guys I like as well. So Sahith Theegala just continues to impress. 13th, I think, last week again in an elite field.
Yeah, I'm going to echo some of those names as well. I'm going to start near the top of the 7,000s. Russell Henley at 7,800. Missed the cut last week. I was surprised by that. He'd been playing some really good golf with a couple of top 10s coming into that, but his ball striking is still very, very good. I think he's got a high floor on a regular basis. Keith Mitchell, just look, he's Keith Mitchell. Every single week, I think I've mentioned him, and especially on a place where you can pull the trigger and drive it really well. This is could be right up his alley. Theegala is a guy that came on our radio show last week on PGA Tour Radio, and after he left, Michael Collins and I looked at each other. I said, he just looks like a superstar. I mean, if you knew nothing about golf and you just sat here in a chair and watched all these great players walk by you, you'd look at him and go, he's the best, right? He just looks like he's got confidence. He's got some swagger. I'm still all aboard the Sahith Theegala train. Now, I will admit, over his last 4 starts, the scoring average in the first 2 rounds has been 68.88, and the scoring average in the last 2 rounds on the weekends has been 71.33. He's got to figure that out. He's got to play a little bit better in the weekend rounds, but I do think that's still part of the learning curve. He'll get there. I've got Keegan Bradley written down. I think this is a very Keegan Bradley-ish golf course, and I think that's a nice play. I know he's not playing his best golf, but I do like Keegan this week, and I'll throw Denny McCarthy. The Maryland native should be in some familiar surroundings, not too far away in Delaware, and he's playing some good golf right now as well. All right, 6,000s, Len. Give me some low budget specials. And again, there are names we know in the 6,000s this week. We're not digging for, you know, guys that we've never heard of before.
Yeah, apparently Sepp Straka didn't do enough to impress the DraftKings people. He's still at $6,700. But you know, I'm not necessarily taking him. In fact, I'm not picking him. 6 straight cuts he missed, something like that going into last week. Crazy game of golf. Alex Noren, 6,900. He withdrew last week with a neck injury. And I just said I'm staying away from Hideki because of his injury. But Hideki's been going on for a while now. I'm not sure what's going on with Noren, but in a perfect world, I would like him. Just a terrific putter. 6th in 3-putt avoidance. Actually, first on tour in putting from 10 to 15 feet. It's going to take a lot to get into the top 30. If he is healthy, he could make a run for it. Wyndham Clark, we talk about him here all the time. The 2 big, you know, best clubs in his bag, driver and putter. That sounds like a good combination this week. He squeezed in last week, by 3 points or something over Anaban Lahiri. It's like tantamount to 1 shot over 10 months. It's just crazy hard to get into the top 70. And he's 6,500. So that fulfills my 6,500 an under quota, but I'm going to go one more. Taylor Moore, 6,400. Fun fact, at the beginning of the year, when RotoWire asked all the golf writers to come up with sleeper picks, I picked Aaron Wise, but he was taken. So they made me go somewhere else, and I went to Taylor Moore. And actually, it worked out pretty well for a rookie to get into the top 70. I think there were 7 or 8 rookies, incidentally, but he's been playing very well lately. And I like him to continue that, and certainly the freedom of not having to worry about making a cut.
Yeah, so there are a lot of names that I like here in the 6,000s. I'll start with Chris Kirk, who I liked a lot last week, didn't play great, missed the cut. I will have a few lineups. We talk about sort of stacking in golf DFS, and the stack that I like this week is stacking guys who didn't have a good week last week. Maybe it's a missed cut stack from last week and basically trying to prey on everybody with their recency bias and trying to go the other way on it. So I like Kirk. Emiliano Grillo has been much improved over the last couple of months. He's starting to play some really good golf. Mark Leishman at one point was leading the field in total birdies last week, but had a bunch of big numbers. I'm not even sure what to do with Leash at this point. I don't think I love him, but look, if they're all going to make the cut anyway, and he's going to make a lot of birdies, maybe there's something to it. Trey Mullinax at a very, very low price, 6,200 for a guy who was in contention last week. Really like that. I'll give you 3 more names, 6,200 or less. Brendan Steele, good course for him. Alex Smalley, who's had a tremendous rookie season. I could see him having a really nice week and maybe even sneaking into that top 30, getting to the Tour Championship. And Kurt Kitayama, another really good driver of the golf ball. I could see Kitayama up there this week at the minimum price for Kurt Kitayama. Yeah, sign me up. I kind of like that. So in any case, exactly what I'm saying is that there are a lot of guys way down at the bottom that aren't necessarily our usual Monday qualifiers or guys that are just jumping into the tour for 1 week. These are guys who are very good players. They're in the top 70 for a reason because they've had a good season. And so I don't mind chasing some of the guys near the bottom. All right, time to make our DraftKings lineup. Len, as always, you're up first. We can go a lot of different ways with it. What are you thinking?
Yeah, and with those low guys, I mean, we don't have a cut again, obviously, and so we have the opportunity to really if things start out slowly, to play well, and you're going to get some scoring out of them on the weekend, no matter what. Incredible that Lucas Glover at 61 and JJ Spawn at 6,000. No love from last week from the DraftKings people. I'm having a hard time figuring out where to go. But this is sort of a higher price play, but a safe play. I'm going to go with Tony Finau. He is just playing well. I don't think it matters the course. I think he can, we wouldn't associate him with birdies, but I think he's hitting the ball, striking the ball well enough, and he's not even 10,000, 9,700.
I like it. I got no problem with Tony Finau right now, playing some of the best golf of his life. And again, I mentioned it earlier, but whether it's the golf gods rewarding players, or whether it's just, you knock on the door enough times, at some point, you look at the playoffs as sort of a last chance for guys who have been playing well. Colin Morikawa has not been slumping this year. He's not had a bad year. His 5 top 5 finishes. He's 3rd on the PGA Tour in strokes gained on approach shots. In fact, he's 30th in strokes gained off the tee. He's 75th in strokes gained putting. He's certainly well within the top half of the PGA Tour in putting this year. I liked him last week. I really like him this week. What you said there about there being 8 holes that were 450 yards or less.
Yep.
That just plays into his hands. The ball striking is really good right now. I'm going to throw Morikawa in there.
Yeah, and these guys, they can. We've seen it. We've seen it in recent weeks with Russell Henley and Morikawa too. I mean, they're so good with their ball striking, and their proximity is so good that sort of makes their putting better in a way, because they're just so much closer to the hole. I don't know if this is going to get us into problem here, but I think I want to go with another higher price guy. But all right, I'll save that. See what we have later on. I'm going to go all the way down to Keegan Bradley. We both like him. You mentioned it, that he's from the Northeast. This is a Northeast track. I think it's very familiar setting for him, not this particular course, but this type of environment. And I think it matches up really well for his game. And he will be low owned, as hard as it is to find low ownership in a no cut limited field, 7,200.
Yeah, I like that play. I think that's a nice little contrarian play. I don't think too many people are going to be jumping on Keegan Bradley this week, but he has shown that that area has been good to him. He won, remember, at Aronimink at the 2018 BMW Championship, and so this could be another good one for him 4 years later. I'm going to stick with the guy who should be in familiar surroundings this week. I'm not going to suggest that oh, he's from Maryland, so Delaware's like right around the corner, and he should be there all the time. But he might just feel a little bit more like, hey, this is kind of homey for me. And he's also had a really good year, a little all or nothing right now. But Denny McCarthy is one of the best putters on the PGA Tour. Doesn't get enough credit for the way he's been swinging it, but strokes gained in 8 of his last 12 starts, strokes gained on approach shots with his irons. And so I like the way that he's swinging it. Always like the way he's putting it. I think Denny McCarthy's a nice play at 7,000.
Yeah, and presumably it's sort of a home game. Maybe he'll get to see mom and dad on that trip. They'll come up or something to see him. You would think. What do we got left here? How much should we?
16-7, 83.50 per man.
16 to 83. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna go low here, and then just sort of give you almost the entire field here to take us on home here. Yeah, I guess I'm deciding between Wyndham Clark at 65 and Taylor Moore at 64. So Wyndham Clark was very impressive last week, and he just might have had the biggest struggle there. I don't know how much more pressure he can face this week than he felt at the end of last week trying to get in. So maybe this is just house money this week. Wyndham Clark, 6,500, 20th on tour in strokes gained putting. He could really surprise this week.
I like that. Len, can I talk you into Taylor Moore? If you're going back and forth between the two of them, would you like Taylor Moore?
You know what? I've reconsidered. There was a stat that I completely forgot about that Taylor Moore well, they're both 5-letter last names, so that doesn't work. Taylor Moore, $6,400.
The only reason I say it, because that stat might have been some addition and subtraction. With Wyndham Clark, you would have left me 10,200. I don't mind Justin Thomas. I said I like Will Zalatoris. I can find players up there. You take Taylor Moore at 6,400 there, it leaves me exactly 10,300, and I can throw John Rahm into that lineup. Okay. I really like Rahm this weekend. So I just, if you were going back and forth on Moore and Clark anyway, if you said, look, I love Clark, I don't like Moore, fine. But if you're going back and forth anyway, let's get the big fella John Rahm into this lineup. A little daddy bump. He is a dad for the second time, and look, it's worked well for him in previous situations like this. So I think coming off that 5th place finish last week could be a really good week for Rahm. We've got Keegan Bradley, Tony Finau, Denny McCarthy, Taylor Moore, Colin Morikawa, John Rahm. I really like that, Len.
Yeah, and now that we've talked it through, I think this is definitely the way to go this week. I think the winner is going to come from one of these big names. We've got 3 of them in there. There's no way to get 4. 3 is very hard to do. We did it. The bad guys, how bad can they do playing all 4 rounds? I think that's the primary way to construct your lineup this week. Big guns.
Absolutely. I'll have a lot of those big guns in a lot of my lineups. Good luck to you guys with your lineups. And we thank you for listening to this edition of the Links and Locks podcast. Remember, you can find this podcast anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Download, rate, subscribe, and listen every single week. For Len Hochberg, I'm Jason Sobel. Again, good luck with those DFS lineups for this week's BMW Championship. Here's hoping you hit the green.